Welcome to Marvelicious Toys. We bring you news and reviews of Marvel toys, statues, and more. Because not all Marvel collections can be bagged and boarded. They're not just toys, they're Marvelicious.
So let's go ahead and finish reviewing stuff from the last Marvel movie, our San Diego Comic-Con Ant-Man collectibles.
Oh yeah, they've been sitting on my desk for just that long.
To start off with, there was the cool box set that was sold at Hasbro Toy Shop. It is, would you call this a 3-pack or a 5-pack?
I would have a hard time considering this any more than a 3-pack because 2 of them should be free, right?
I would think so, but you're going to have to tell me about one of them. Definitely the other one should be free. Absolutely. It's barely an accessory so much as an annoyance.
Right, and something that we've had before, so I feel like they just kind of tossed it in because, hey, why not? We have it. So do you want to start biggest to smallest?
Let's start with Giant Man, Hank Pym. Now, this is kind of cool. This is about a 12-inch figure.
Yeah, this is the Marvel Icons 12-inch figures. Remember we used to get Daredevil in this scale.
Mm-hmm. I still see them at every toy show I go to. They didn't sell very well.
Yeah, and what's funny is if you don't see, I guess those are his antenna?
Yes.
It looks like Daredevil because he's red and black. It looks like it's the same body, same face mask almost, except he's got crazy antenna that look like a crazy Mexican mustache.
I can see that, except for maybe his jester boots and gloves that come to points.
That is very true. If you kind of don't see it, but if you just see it off in the distance, you're like, oh, look, a Daredevil figure.
I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. Especially since, they had the Icons Daredevil.
Now, years back when we first started doing the show, there was a line of Marvel Universe figures that came with one big guy and one small guy. So there was, Wolverine came with a Sentinel, but before that, they even had a Giant Man. Do you remember that? I think they were Walmart exclusives.
I remember Goliath.
Goliath, that's right. There was 2 different Goliaths.
Mm-hmm.
I found only one of them. I can never find the variant.
I remember driving 2 hours round trip after work one day to go to a Walmart where they had them.
Nice. Well, that's the same body we're dealing with here, too. So they've used this body before. This isn't something that they just came up with, for this set. Everything in this set was a pretty easy repaint or retooling for them. Minus maybe a few new heads here and there.
Hey, does yours have something rattling inside of it?
No. Shaking him pretty violently.
Uh-oh. I got another defective one.
Where's it at? In his torso?
Yeah, in his torso.
But I think it's okay. I mean, it doesn't affect the outwardly figure. No one's going to be shaking your Giant Man.
Maybe you should open him. Maybe it's a cry for help from somebody who put him together at the factory.
Admittedly, he doesn't seem to be broken in any way. Now, looking at him, I mean, they did add those antenna, eyebrow shape horns to his head. And beyond that, standard buck, but it works well. I like the size because you could put it with your 6-inch Legends and have him be, pretty big. Or you could put him with your 3 3/4-inch Infinite Series and then have him be just really ginormous.
Ginormous Man. Yeah, I mean, with it being Giant Man, we really don't know the scale. Did he have an outward upper limit of how big he could get? Could it only go in certain fractions of size? So it works well either way.
I know there's a limit to how big he could get because I remember reading comics where he's going to go bigger and they were scared to do it. But I think that initially he was afraid to go over 100 feet tall. This would be obviously much less than 100 feet, but he could be anywhere in that scale. So yeah, he could be with either scale you want him to be.
Very nice. Now, another new piece is this belt. They made a new belt for him, and I think I kind of dinged the previous version of Giant Man in this costume from the Marvel Legends wave that we reviewed on the last show for not doing an accessory belt and just painting it on. And if they would have just painted it on here, that would have really sucked. So I'm glad they went the extra effort and actually put a belt on here. And actually, you know what? I'm lifting his belt up, and they had to because he's wearing an X-Men belt under it. So as I'm giving him a compliment for doing it, they had to do it.
That's awesome. He really changed teams, but don't let anyone know because the X-Men aren't allowed back on Earth.
That's right. Now, as far as paint apps go, my my specimen is pretty clean. I don't see any sloppy line work or things outside of it or any of the bleed issues that we were having with some of the other figures.
Oh, really?
Uh-oh. You must have got a really bad one.
First, around the face where there's some skin, I noticed just it's unclean lines and the skin color kind of goes outside the chin.
Oh.
And then I noticed on one of his hips, his right hip, there's some black paint missing, so the red shows through it. It's not minor. It's pretty considerable.
Oh, it's bad.
Oh, bummer. You got a bunk giant, man. I'm not seeing any of these.
I could deal with the face if it wasn't for the hip.
Yeah.
But the hip is quite noticeable. It's like it rubbed in the package almost.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, after feeling it, it's either been gouged with something or the paint didn't get a chance to dry before it touched something.
Oh, that's truly a bummer.
Other than that, the paint looks pretty good, but I did notice those issues right away. And just around the hips and things where the articulation is, you can just see some red.
Yeah, and that's just paint over areas where it's going to be one way or the other. It looks like they painted black over red on that ball joint. And so, I mean, if they did it the other way, we would be seeing black through there rather than red. But what's starting to bother me a little bit now is I'm starting to notice his torso plastic is a slightly different red from the plastic on his legs.
That happens so much anymore because of the way they have to mold and then paint some pieces. I maybe need to make a resolution next year not to get all upset about that.
It's not so bad. Like at a couple feet away, I'm not seeing it, but when I hold it up close and have a light on it, you can tell that it's, the torsos are harder plastic. The legs are more of a softer, pliable plastic. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with the one I have here. It sounds like you might need to track another one down if it's that bad.
Yeah, I did pick up a second set from Hasbro Toy Shop, so my question becomes, do I open it? Because I got one to keep mint in box, because we didn't talk about the box. It comes in an awesome box.
A ridiculous box.
I mean, it's a giant box because you got Giant Man in there, so it's big, but you got like the screaming Ant-Man face on it and movable pop-up antennas so they don't bend when you're shipping them, but you can display them with the antenna up.
That was a nice touch.
That kind of stuff is what makes an exclusive fun. It's different packaging. Yeah, maybe we'll get the figures in a different set when I get home, but the fact that I've got something really awesome to display, that makes an exclusive fun.
And then it's got a Velcro closed front, so you can open it up and see the figures inside in the plastic and a little bit of information. And then on the back, you see the picture of the figures. It's a great package. I am not a mint in package collector. I only do it if the package is exceedingly nice. And that's why I got two of these. I thought this was exceedingly nice. And yet still the Book of Vishanti was better.
And the nice thing about this is, since it is a window box, but it has the Velcro flap on it, you could still display the box without having to keep the figures in it. But it's also a very funky shape. It's got the round helmeted top that kind of flares out. Like if you just looked at it as a silhouette, it almost looks like Darth Vader's helmet stretched out.
Yeah, I can see that.
Absolutely.
It's not an easy shape to mass produce and make. So, but I like, they've done different varnishes here. There's some parts that are shiny and glossy while other parts are dull. And they even did a little bit of embossing on the front. If you feel around his mask is raised just slightly, which wasn't necessarily necessary, but they went the extra mile for that.
And some spot UV on it. It's just an overall well-done box. I've got to say, Hasbro's been knocking it out of the park ever since they went to Black Series with the packaging.
Indeed.
But as for the figure himself, the articulation's a bit odd, too. I mean, you turn the arms and it's just clicky.
Very snappy.
And his legs joints are pretty tight on mine. I see he's got like this ball-jointed hip with the side-to-side movement, but I cannot get that to rotate very much. Oh, there it goes. I just have to really gently apply pressure to get his legs to split out.
Yeah, I was going to complain a little bit about him being bow-legged a little bit, but
I think it's an illusion because he's got such skinny knees and giant calves.
Yeah, I can't tell what it is because I try to line up the black paint from the ball joint on his hip to his thigh, and it makes him kind of pigeon-toed. Otherwise, it kind of bows out that right thigh a little bit. It's not horrible. I mean, I'm not saying it's like warped in packages. I've seen some other figures, but I've never been a huge fan of the articulation on this buck. I've had problems with some in the past where one of the arms was actually glued down and I broke it trying to just move it a little bit. So I guess we're lucky that we don't have any glued down parts. So you got double hinged elbow joints, which is nice, and double hinged knees. And this is before they started doing the ankle rockers. And in something this size, I almost don't know if I'd want ankle rockers, because with this much weight, I could see it wearing on that and eventually not standing up on its own.
It does stand really well. It's got the ab articulation also. It's fun to get these giant figures for this series, you know, to have a giant man that is much bigger versus the giant man we reviewed last week, who's the same size as all the other legends.
He's giant man incognito.
He's a little bit limited in his neck articulation. I feel like he's either looking down or slightly not looking down.
Okay, you have that too. I just thought I had yet another problem but I also felt like because he's so tall, he probably would be looking down most of the time.
Yeah, it's a good way to explain around it for sure, but
but yeah, I can make him look up, but the head just has a tendency to
yeah. Looking down. It's been another bad day for Giant.
So then going down in scale, our next figure, Goliath Hank Pym in his X-Men outfit. I'm joking, but the yellow and blue is screaming to me X-Men.
Actually, if you just swap it out and make the blue parts yellow and the yellow parts blue, he would be an X-Men. You're absolutely right.
And he's wearing the sunglasses. He kind of looks like Cyclops.
He does. So does Hank Pym just steal everyone else's stuff, or what's going on here?
Well, he has the same paint issues as the X-Men did, because mine is sloppy and you can see blue through the yellow everywhere.
Yep.
Oh, good. So I don't have to replace the whole set. Just my giant man.
I don't know. You've got some pretty sloppy paint up here on the shoulder joints, too. Again, like they didn't let it dry thoroughly.
Well, to let people know what we're talking about, we are talking about the 6-inch Legends scale one. Did we say that?
Yes, this is the Legends figure that comes in it. But, all right, let's look at the set as a whole. Is this a 3 3/4-inch set, and they've included a Legends figure so that Goliath is taller than the regular 3 3/4-inch figure and Giant Man is taller still?
I think that's the way we have to assume, because once we get to the next figure, that's where we'll set our baseline for how tall Dr. Hank Pym should be in this set. But yeah, here I think what we're dealing with is a slightly grown 3 3/4-inch figure in the 6-inch scale. It's kind of hard to imagine him being Giant Man at this scale, right? Because I'm trying to imagine this in real life. If somebody was this tall, you'd have to be looking at somebody's belly button as a regular human.
So he's probably around 10 feet. Taller than even basketball players.
Yeah.
If we assume Hank Pym is 6, then this is 9.5 to 10 feet tall. Imposing, to be sure.
So this is the one that is just your basic Marvel Legends buck, and it's actually built on the same body as the Giant Man that came in the Ant-Man Legends series. And this is one I kind of feel like they had both of them on the desk at the same time. It's like, all right, which one goes in the Comic-Con pack and which one goes out to retail? I think the decision was probably made like, well, let's not make 2 of the red ones in the same outfit, in the same pack. Let's split those up so we get this one in the Goliath colors. And I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not super impressed with the paint. I'm not a huge fan of this outfit. It's just not a lot to it beyond it's just yet another Marvel Legends figure.
I just think that somewhere along the line, somebody is working on a better way to do a light color over a dark color for these problems, right? Because we had it on Giant Man, we've got it on Goliath, we had it on the X-Men pack a while ago.
I had it on Gamora.
Something's got to give here, and someone's got to create something. Or find a way to not do it and make bad action figures.
Oh, there's ways to do it, and Hasbro knows how to do it. It's just a matter of whether or not they want to do it. I have a Star Wars Sand Trooper figure sitting here on my desk, and he has a black pauldron on with bright orange paint over it. So if you can get bright orange to show up over black, then you can get any lighter color to show up over any other color. It's just a matter of laying down a base coat of white and then doing it.
Primer.
Yep.
But for this figure, getting him, I have to say that becoming a Legends collector has jaded me. Because if I was still only collecting 3 3/4-inch figures, first, I wouldn't have a whole lot to talk about on this show. But second, I would get this figure and be like, wow, that's so much bigger in my hand than what I'm used to. But because now I'm so used to buying Legends, and they come out with so many Legends that it doesn't feel exceptional, and it looks like a lackluster Legends rather than a supersized 3 3/4 Infinite.
That's a very good way of saying it. Like, the figure I'm holding in my hand almost feels like a sloppily done custom. I mean,
like if I did it.
Maybe. I mean, it's just like I'm seeing different amounts of yellow from different parts of his arm. Like, they didn't finish it. And like, when I move his arm, I have like splotches where it's stuck to his upper torso there when it was drying.
Oh, wow. You have a worse one than me for a change.
And I can even tell this torso wasn't put on properly. Like, I can see through one side of him, through his torso.
I can see through the torso if I hold him up. I can see there's a crack around the ab articulation.
Oh my gosh.
It's not like a broken crack. It's just...
it's creepy though.
Yeah.
It's just off center. Oh, it moves a little bit. Well, this one I would probably be a lot more harsh on if it was part of a wave that I needed to buy him to get a build-up figure part.
But since he's part of a box set you have to buy to get the rest of it, you're okay?
I guess. He added a little bit of color into the packaging.
Given that last show we reviewed a giant man who was 6 inches, and now we have Goliath that's 6 inches, I just don't know where to display him. It's like, does he go with my Legends? Does he go with my Universe? I think I've got to remember to keep him with Universe, and then he's like a great giant Universe figure, whereas he's a really bad Legends.
Well, I think this is kind of close to the outfit of that 12-inch Goliath. If you have that one, they could be displayed together. But yeah, all in all, this is not my favorite figure in the pack, and that's kind of weird being the Legends guy here. So take from that what you will.
Then the third figure going down the scale is Hank Pym in his science outfit. Science!
It's because everyone wants is a science action figure. Wait, so he does science in his little costume? We just put their lab coat over it? This is ridiculous.
You don't know him. He's
very busy. He needs to be out anting, and when he's doing science, changing clothes takes time.
This is so silly. I'm sorry, Ant-Man fans.
Okay, I agree, but I'm also going to give them a little bit of credit here because they could have just as easily thrown in the Marvel Universe, or I think it was even a Marvel Infinite series at this point, Ant-Man figure that this is based on. But they decided instead of doing that, they're going to give us some G.I. Joe parts to make it feel better.
Is that Duke's head? I am Googling right now. It looks like Duke. It does not look like Hank Pym with the hair and the stern face. I mean, it reminds me of what I used to see when I watched the cartoon as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, they have so many unique heads over in their G.I. Joe library that I would not be shocked to find out that this was a G.I. Joe head, not a new head for this. But it's definitely G.I. Joe arms and a G.I. Joe lab coat. This comes from, remember the movie, the first movie that came out? That doctor that ended up being Cobra Commander? This is his coat.
Oh. Now, don't quote me on this because I don't have the figure in my hand, but I believe that this is the G.I. Joe Pursuit of Cobra Wave 3 Duke head.
All right.
Uh-huh.
It looks incredibly similar. Only the Duke head had painted eyebrows, and it looks like Hank Pym here got too much of a waxing on his forehead. I can faintly see some yellow lines scrawled over the skin, but it really looks like he has no eyebrows. And given that he has no lips either, it's slightly disconcerting.
Yeah. In mine, it looks like he's frustrated with something because he's looking up.
Yes, yeah. He's like rolling his eyes at something and scowling. But he has a tremendous coif.
But we do get 2 heads. We do get the Duke head, and we get an Ant-Man helmeted head, which is, I'm pretty darn sure, the exact same one that came on the Ant-Man figure that we were talking about before, so...
But it looks silly with the lab coat. It's not right.
Admittedly, when I first saw this advertised online, I'm like, wow, he's completely in a lab outfit. It's just a regular Joe, no pun intended. So... I thought that was cool. Then I opened him and I'm like, oh, he's got an Ant-Man outfit underneath. So he's an Ant-Man figure if I were taking off the coat. And then, wait, no, because the coat is his sleeves. His sleeves are his arms, so you can never take the coat off.
Nope.
So why does he need this alternate head?
I don't know.
Maybe he's doing lab tests with his Pym particle. But I do like the coat. I didn't know where it was from, but I'm glad to see it reused. It's a cool change of pace. I'd love to see them do this with like a Bruce Banner.
With a lab coat?
Yeah.
And a Hulk head?
Well, not a Hulk head, just a Bruce Banner, you know?
Okay.
However, that could be funny.
Hulk graduate last at medical school. Hulk your doctor. Hulk not take Obamacare.
No, I agree. I don't want to discourage them from coming up with ideas like this, but, you know, the execution here seems a little lackluster using this older buck. There's better Marvel Universe and Marvel Infinite series bodies that they could have used for this. I mean, this is still the old school bad ankles and skinny ankles and skinny knees and almost too loose for articulation. Like, I don't feel like I can get him to stand up with any confidence.
You know, I don't know how many of my 3 3/4 inch figures I would feel would survive a 2.5 earthquake, but this stands about as well as most if you kind of spread the legs apart a little and don't try to do too much crazy with the pose.
If you recall, we had an earthquake, oh gosh, like 6 or 7 years ago, and most of your action figures stayed up.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
My arms are a little loosey-goosey on him, though. The shoulder part.
Yeah, I mean, I can make him hold his arms in front of himself and they don't fall down, but they are kind of loose.
Yeah, they hold, but they don't have any resistance when I turn them, making me wonder how long they'll hold against gravity. And then finally we get to the last 2 figures, or are they accessories? We have Scott Lang Ant-Man in shrunken form, but he's about an inch. So if this is a Legends figure, he goes up to Hank Pym's knee, which is a lot bigger than any ant I'd ever want to face. It's like a Kingdom of the Crystal Skull ant at this point.
It's like that one time, as everyone's had that one time in their life when they've seen either a spider or something that's a little too large for comfort, and that's what that would be.
No, this would be like a Chihuahua-sized ant. Understand this.
Oh, yeah, that would be really big. No, I'm done.
If an ant the size of a Yorkie is building a hill, we are just screwed.
Yeah.
Worship our new masters and call it a day.
Well, like, maybe he's an action figure for the Hank Pym in the lab coat. Like, this is if you give it to Hank Pym, he's almost like Hot Toy scale for him.
That is true. It's a 1/6 scale of a 1/12 scale figure.
I believe this is a new sculpt. I have not seen this before.
That was my question, is why would they make something so big and I hadn't seen it before? None of the Legends we reviewed came with this.
No, and I go back to them at Hasbro with all these Ant-Man figures strewn across a conference room table trying to figure out where they go, and this one almost feels like it might have come with something else in the Legends line as a pack-in, and as we talked about on the last show, they didn't do any pack-ins outside of the main Ant-Man movie figure. So maybe they just said, yeah, he can go in the Comic-Con pack. Because this, I don't know what we're looking at here. It's a different outfit, different costume from the rest of them, and there's absolutely no detail to his face. He just looks like he's wearing a silver spaceman suit with maybe a respirator at the bottom.
Yeah, with the blast shield down, he can't even see. How's he supposed to fight?
How's he supposed to shrink? That's why he didn't finish shrinking. He doesn't know how far he's gone yet. It almost would have been cooler if they maybe would have stuck with the exact same outfit through all these scales. Because then that way it would have been a cool display. Like, he's shrinking and growing. But here he's all over the place. It's like he shrinks and then he changes his clothes. And he grows a little bit and he changes his clothes again. But yeah, this little figure has no articulation. So it's, I don't even know if it's a figure. It's a mini micro statue, I guess.
Yeah, it's an accessory, but you're right. I think that this is to Legends scale what the next one we're going to talk about is to Infinite Series scale. And maybe from a costing perspective, or maybe they just wanted to frustrate collectors, they made it a Comic-Con exclusive piece. But I have no doubt that this is going to show up in a Legends figure again in the next 2 years. Possibly even next year, because Ant-Man is in Civil War.
Yes. And at this size, they can say, oh, well, it doesn't need to be accurate because who can see? I mean, this could be repainted in a movie style outfit, and who would know the difference?
And listeners, if this has been released before in some Hasbro pack from yore that we don't remember, let us know. Hit our forums up or Facebook and tell us where this came from, and we'll announce it on our next show.
But that's not the smallest one we got. They can go smaller, and they did.
I'm almost afraid to, like, touch this one.
Why? We've had so many of these. This accessory has been packed in since the 3-pack box set from Marvel Universe.
Yep.
When they did the Avengers, and that was our Ant-Man.
And he was packed in with Wasp recently. He was packed in with Yellow Jacket, I think, at some point. So longtime collectors have this little guy, or it's been vacuumed up at least 3 times.
And it's the exact same figure we reviewed last week that came with the 6-inch movie Ant-Man figure.
Same pose and everything?
Yeah.
Huh.
The sitting on Antony pose.
Ooh, I'm going to have to correct you there. It's not. The sitting on Anthony is unique to that and one other place that we have not yet talked about. But these two are different, small little sculpts.
You're right. So that is a new sitting on Antony pose. This guy just has bent knees that makes him impossible to stand, hence my confusion.
Yeah, this guy's definitely doing like the Gangnam style dance.
You could basically have him straddling somebody's arm, and that's how you have to pose him.
I know we've talked about this guy before, but I do have to hand it to him on like getting paint on here. I mean, he's got blue gloves and blue boots, and I'm seeing blue briefs and a black belt there.
The silver buckle on the black belt is amazing.
That's pretty impressive.
It's not bad for what the size they had to work with, although his helmet looks like it's got tusks. Like, they're a little exaggerated because it's so tiny.
Oh yeah, it does look really big.
They even tried to get little paint dots on his helmet there. Little black dots for his eyes.
Oh, that's paint? I couldn't tell that. I thought it might be sculpted, but wow, that's not bad. It's a figure you've already got, but if you didn't keep him, or if you may have dropped him in shag carpet, here he is. So overall, I think this is a pretty kick-ass set, though. It's one that's better in the box than out, quite honestly, as we've reviewed these figures and found some pretty big flaws with all of them. And given that we're reviewing 2 sets, Justin's and mine, and we have similar problems across the board, although Justin's Giant Man is not a maraca.
I still think you need to open that up and find out what's going on in there. I totally agree with you, though. This set is better left in package if you only have one of them. And I would ding it more if it wasn't an exclusive. And I feel like it was decently priced. What was this? It was like only $79, $80. Yeah,
it was not bad for getting 3 figures, one of whom was really big and one of which was a legend. I felt pretty good about this, which is why I did pick up that second set at HasbroToyShop.com.
Yeah, makes for a good exclusive. I don't know how happy I would have been if I paid, $80 for these all individually or as a set at the store.
Thanks for watching this video. You can see full episodes of Marvelicious Toys with more collecting news and reviews at MarveliciousToys.com. We also have thousands of toy and collectible photos in our photo gallery. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, make mine Marvelicious.